Obviously, my title is going to make some people say, what is he on about? So I want to address that first. When I say Starfield isn't a space game, I'm not trying to be edgy. I'm trying to make sure people's expectations are set right going into this, because the game is great. But if you're expecting a space-heavy game, you'll be disappointed. Starfield is Fallout with a sci-fi theme, but it is not a space game. Before we get further into this initial impressions, I do want to throw in a disclaimer that these are just initial impressions after 10 hours of gameplay, and do not represent a final verdict of the game. I might even say something that's later proven wrong, so please do bear in mind that this is just for my first 10 hours. But back to my point. For me, a space game should have a heavy emphasis on actual space-centered gameplay. Starfield unfortunately nerfs their space activities by having it act as sort of a mid-step on your way to other mission locations, rather than being a central focus of the overall gameplay. As examples of games that are space games, Star Citizen is a space game because you can fight in space, mine in space, run cargo in space, pirate in space, loot in space, and spacewalk in space. Yeah, that's right, you can't spacewalk in Starfield. How disappointing. In Star Citizen, you can travel from planetside to space with no loading screens. Space is a part of the environment you frequently operate in. No Man's Sky is the same. Elite Dangerous. Space is integral to the experience in these games. Starfield's space experience is segregated, with very simple and no-skill combat, no spacewalking, and boxed-in maps of space. Sure, a random NPC might give you a mission, but you'll quickly end up back in menus, quick traveling to the next planet, and spending most of your time on foot, planetside. With that said, and expectations readjusted, I have been able to start enjoying the game. Because initially, I was a little bit disappointed. But let's lighten the mood and talk about what has been good and why you might love this game. One thing Starfield does better than those other games is making a world that feels lived in. No Man's Sky is alright, but in Starfield I walked up to some janitor and she started giving me her life story.
Oh, hi there. I'm doing great. How about you?
This is important to allowing someone to immerse themselves into a world. Granted, the amount of loading screens immediately takes me right back out of that. That's something that a game with smaller scale like Skyrim has over Starfield. Walking from place to place keeps you grounded in the world, giving chance for random encounters that don't feel forced. Starfield's random encounters feel a bit more scripted since they happen out of loading screens usually. On the RPG side of things, the replay value feels like it will be immense. Seeing how multiple different traits might give you access to different missions from NPCs, or even change how you inherently approach the game. For instance, I chose to have a dream home to start, which made me start focusing on taking huge paying missions, even opting to side with a bank and hunting down people skipping out on their debts. I can assure you in a real world scenario, I would likely be working out cuts with the folks in debt, screwing over the banks. But this character trait guided me down a certain path. I think everyone should try one or two of these on their first playthrough to help forge an immediate personal goal. Otherwise, you're going to be focusing on so many side missions. I'm not sure if this is a positive or a negative, all I know is that you will not be short of missions to hit up. Within 2 hours of playing, I had 10 quests. Some started just by walking by two people having a conversation.
You see that scientist out in front of mast, staring at trees, sounds upset? Whatever it is, it can't be that bad, right?
Another by reading a book. Bethesda said, F it, everything is a quest. Everything is also lootable. So much loot. Although the good stuff is behind lockpick, and I gotta say, this is one of my favorite lockpick systems I've seen in a game. Sort of a mini puzzle. But with so much loot, I feel like you will inevitably miss something, and that's a good thing. In my opinion, it brings us back around to that replay value. I've grown fond of not being able to 100% a game on my first playthrough. Too many AAA titles feel like checklists, but a game like Starfield feels more like an adventure that will be different each time. Overall, the gunplay is smooth, fun, and the movement is also satisfying, so simply controlling your character is never frustrating. But before we move on to my cons, here's something I hadn't seen before. The perfect usage of text-to-speech. Vasco, your little starter companion, is a robot, and this robot actually says your character's name. And now we're here.
Protocol Indigo is in effect.
Did it just say my name? No. He actually just said my character's name.
This is not a pre-selected name, this is a name I typed in. Since the robot's voice is synthetic, I mean, it's a perfect time to do it, and that little detail, it made me happy. But now it's time to get a little negative. First off, don't even try to play this game on a hard drive. I ignored the requirements, and it didn't go so well. An SSD is a must.
Like, that shouldn't affect the audio being lagged. Unless they're like live streaming it.
Fine work under pressure.
That's not like a negative to the game, just potentially a deterrent if you don't have an SSD. I've already kind of touched on this, but I think the thing that really holds the game back is the fact that it doesn't feel like a space game, but rather a space-themed game. I think a lot of it can be attributed to the insane amount of loading screens and menu time you spend in the game. I can't walk from mission to mission. I have to get in my ship, cutscene fly away with the same animation every time, fast travel to a new system, then fast travel to the planet. That's just not a good space experience. If you're going to treat the space element like a mid-step to the next story beat, just let me skip it altogether. I wouldn't mind space if the combat was actually fun, but I gotta be honest, it really just isn't that much fun. It doesn't need to be a simulator like Elite Dangerous or Star Citizen, but it definitely trends on the arcadey side of things. And if you like that, then perfect. But the gun's auto-lock, changing power into systems is pointless. I haven't touched the power system and I haven't even come close to losing a fight yet. And you don't have 6 degrees of freedom by default. Now apparently, holding spacebar is supposed to switch flight modes, so you do, but no matter how long I hold it, it doesn't do anything, so maybe my game is just bugged or I'm missing something, but the game doesn't explain it to you at any point, so I'm not sure. Leave it in the comments below if I'm just an idiot. I also think more control would make the fights even easier, to be honest. Now, zero-G gunfights, that was fun. I want more of these. Sometimes you'll get a spaceport appear, you can go in and fight some baddies. But docking to them, it just auto-docks. There's no skill in. At least make that a mini game. Oh man, now that reminded me of loading screens. Now I'm back on loading screens. Man, do I think this hinders the game so freaking much. I never thought I would miss waiting for an elevator in Star Citizen. It just adds so much immersion. I just am not a fan of this fade to black screen and now you're over here. I can't truly get a sense of scale of these locations because of it. In fact, I found myself never quick jumping into my cockpit when entering my ship. Instead, I walked through the ship itself. Not out of spite, but just out of immersion. I'm playing an RPG, I'm supposed to be immersed. Also, I think flying seamlessly into a planet's atmosphere lets you appreciate its power and size and the overall scale of a game. Like, compare this to this. I know, I shouldn't be comparing Star Citizen to Starfield, as they're completely different games, but it's impossible not to mention how much these loading screens hold the game back. I want to reiterate here. I know I'm sounding whiny, but I am having fun overall. But this is simply a Fallout game with space theming. And for most people, that's all that needs to be said to have a great time. But it's not here to revolutionize RPGs. Go play Baldur's Gate. But it does offer a large world to get lost in and acquire way too many side quests way too fast. The voice acting is great, the graphics are pretty, and it plays really smooth. And with already 100 mods on the market in the first week, I guarantee you someone is going to make seamless space to planet side travel. And if you'd like to see more gameplay or tell me how I'm wrong in my assessment, you can join my Twitch streams. I stream every day under the same name, or just throw it in the YouTube comments below. Stay tuned for more Starfield and Star Citizen content by hitting subscribe, and make sure that bell is on. See you later.
Whoa.